Mr. David is not around, so he's going to be represented by another team lead, Madam Kristina. Karibu. Welcome.
Asante. And I got the pleasure of being with you today. My name is Kristina Lahde. I'm the Social Innovation Advisor for Human Development Innovation Fund here in Tanzania. HDIF is a £40 million project funding innovations in health, education and WASH, which stands for water, sanitation and health. And the HDIF project has been going on for 5 years now. So we have been in the process of collecting some of the learning and insight, both from our projects and from the program itself. And much of that has to do with building and supporting ecosystems, which is why we are here today. And if the presentation makes it on the stage, I'll show you some of the things, but in the meantime, I'll tell you a little bit about that. So one of the main things, and I think that I'm preaching to the choir, most of you work with the ecosystem, so this might be familiar to you. The information and which will become a publication is kind of directed more towards donors and policymakers. So forgive me if this is all so evident that everybody should know it, but one of the things that is the key theme is that you should support the ecosystem as well. We fund, we have it, so now I only need the clicker. So our main thing is supporting innovations, projects with grants, but one of the key learnings is that you also need to support the ecosystem, because nobody can manage alone. The challenge of several challenges there are that every ecosystem is different. The actors are very unique. It's not easy to say this is what the Tanzanian entrepreneur is like or try to put them in a box. And furthermore, most of the entrepreneurs and other actors, they actually play several roles. They might have several companies. They also run an NGO. They also lead a community of faith, and they also have a little side business doing consulting for government. So when you meet somebody, they actually wearing 5 hats at the same time. The ecosystem changes really fast. It sometimes feels like every week there's something new. So the actors also adapt really quickly to their environment. So if you want to support an animal that looks different every day, it was a panther last week and it's a giraffe this week and next week it will be a rhino, there are some things that we believe you must do. One thing is that you should try to think about what the systemic changes that you're trying to achieve. Try to understand what are the circles of power, who's talking to who's not talking to who has the official influence over something, who's the tastemaker, the thought leader, and try to understand those things as well, not just the kind of formal structures. And obviously the way to do that is to be both present and active in the ecosystem. It's not enough for a funder to sit in and observe. You have to be a player, you have to be a friend, you have to be connected, you have to be a supporter, sometimes you have to be a challenger. But if we really want to make a difference, we can't just be neutral and hang in the sidelines and observe. Because everything changes and because everybody's different, obviously there's a lot of need for customization. One thing that has a lot of effect is the sector. If you are in mobile health in Tanzania, you'll have a lot of networks. People understand the concept. There are channels, there are working groups. There are different ways how to connect yourself with the other practitioners and with the government. On the other hand, if you're in the sanitation, it's not quite as clear. The networks are very different. Obviously also the innovators in different stages need different types of support. Besides money, you need to support with connections, technical assistance, all sorts of things. And like surprising to no one, things don't always go as planned, or things mostly don't go as planned. So we also must accept that sometimes learning is an acceptable outcome. Things might not have the outcome that we thought, then we have to be very happy about learning. And finally, I think a lot of us, we grapple with the same problems. So there should be a culture of learning, and that requires a lot of trust. The only way to really learn is for us to trust each other so much that we can really talk about what actually happened, what really went wrong, what was the real reason that this didn't go as planned or it failed. Unless we manage to build the trust, our learning is going to be very superficial. And then, of course, we need to trust the community and everybody else also enough that we can share not just the victories, but also the other types of learnings. That means that we have to also invest and support in collecting evidence and putting some effort into that, because that's also not free and doesn't happen by itself. And we have to allow for flexibility in the funding, but also in the team. If innovation changes radically, or a donor program changes radically, or it needs to change, then there needs to be also flexibility in the team and the structures. So we need to be able to change also ourselves, not just expect change from others. And because I thought that some of the audience here probably would be interested in Tanzanian hubs, as a part of this information collecting, we've been doing a couple of rounds of trying to identify the hubs and also figure out what they want. And naturally, this is already outdated. Anything that you put up there is going to be outdated, even if it was last week. Somebody's already closed doors and 5 new ones are up. But just a brief glance, we collected data last year by interviewing and collecting information from hubs to understand what their challenges are and how they work. At that point, we reached 27 hubs. Now we think that there's something, maybe 35 to 40 hubs. The 2 different colors are the black ones we interviewed last year. The orange ones are the ones that are kind of either appeared afterwards or we know are coming. And some of obviously I could talk about this for 2 hours, but I won't. But just some interesting things. We noticed that there's a big division in the hubs on whether they are more focused on building communities, people, capabilities, or whether they are more focused on businesses and tech. Both are needed, I think. There are some hubs that are just generally technology or generally even youth. But then there are hubs that have a very specific focus on social business or agriculture or women or, social businesses, lots of different things. So trying to support this network and these hubs is also takes a bit of imagination and adaptation because they are so different. But what most of them want are models and more support in implementing new programs and new skills. So I would assume that many people in this room would have a lot to offer to many of these Tanzanian hubs. I also don't think that many of these are members of AfriLab, so you should probably go and talk to them and get them into the network because they really need support. So this will come out as a publication in November, and you will be able to find it online from the HDIF website. And we'll try to do some sort of shebang for the people who are in Tanzania to publish it, so you will hopefully hear about it. And here's the website, here's the email of the team leader who is not here today, and there's my email as well, and I'm happy to tell you more, just come and chat to me during the breaks. Thanks.